quick,
just a little
quick and dirty topic.
digestible
this week.
bit.
Yeah. So, yeah, and I think a lot of it circles around some of those similar topics we've been covering in the last few, whatever these tips and tricks episodes are. Mm. But this week we're talking about envy.
Ooh.
And sort of in the personal realm as well as in perhaps like the business realm or professional realm. So I've been thinking about this as we kind of discussed that it would be a good topic, and to me it's almost the other side of the coin from the comparison. And we did our comparison as the thief of joy quote that inspired an episode, and I see a lot of there's definite differences there, but I see a lot of similarities too.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
And so, well, basically envy is it's that desire or that feeling of like dis-ease at somebody else's, could be accomplishments, it could be their possessions, or it could just be actually another part of like the definition is it could be luck, which is really interesting to me too. Mm-hmm. So just kind of from that starting point of understanding like what's envy and what's sort of the issue behind envy.
Yeah. I mean, it's dirty. Like, it doesn't, if we're going to talk about like vibrational frequencies, it's pretty low vibe.
Right.
So I think that, and excuse me, I've been waking up with like a cough lately, so pardon me if I keep coughing through this episode. But I think that emotions can power us and accelerate us through life in any capacity, right? And I think that envy can drive a person. Mm-hmm. However, I think it's in a really negative way. So if I'm like, oh, look at RJ, he's got this really cool business, like F RJ for doing that, I'm going to go do this, and like just in a way to kind of smother you or like pad my own insecurities, which is basically what I would like to get into at the end of this podcast. Sure. But it's a dirty energy. It's toxic. It's not like, you're not cheering on your competitors. And I think that can be, it's a slippery slope, right? Because if people catch on, so if we're talking business envy, if people catch on that you have some pretty nasty antagonistic feelings towards the other guy, whatever the other guy is, that no longer looks bad about, like, if you have negative feelings about them, but people see that, they don't see the other guy as the bad guy. Now it's just like, oh, well, you're a grump. And so that's what I mean by it's toxic, is it like, it corrupts things. It corrupts your reputation. It corrupts the way people see you. It corrupts your own mindset on your own success, really.
Totally. And I think another thing that came to mind with this for me is even leading into the idea of authenticity, and it steals a lot of authenticity from the things that you do if you're driven through envy first and foremost. So that's sort of the triangle that comes to mind to me, and finding that balance between comparison, envy, and authenticity, and maybe all points ideally lead towards authenticity, right?
I like that.
And like, this is just it's sort of what I'm envisioning with this. And I think I guess we'll also, as we kind of like conclude this issue, lead towards like some tips or whatever on how to overcome that. So I'm not going to jump to that point right away, but just like the thought of this luck factor is interesting to me. That's kind of part of the definition of envy is this longing towards somebody else's luck, because luck, we've kind of I know we've touched on it a little bit before when I was talking about how in that Thinking Fast and Slow book, the idea that all these additional factors actually amount to a small percentage above luck, but the and like a lot of things in the world just come about by this quote unquote luck or whatever it is, this sort of some people might use like the term like fate or destiny, a whole bunch of things to kind of conquer this idea. But I don't know. I think maybe realizing that things are sometimes just a lot of luck comes into it could maybe also help with overcoming some of this this envy towards things. But
maybe just dealing with the fact that the other person's got more luck than you.
Maybe. Yeah.
That's interesting you said that in that way, because I was just chewing on the luck factor and thinking about envy. And I think a statement that I've heard people say, and I've heard myself say, like, oh my gosh, you're so lucky that that's happened to you.
Right.
Because then you put yourself in like that, you haven't had to work for your success, and I'm over here struggling, woe is me, right? Like, it's such a victim standpoint, and that's how I view the luck and envy. And I've had people say that to me before. Like, you're so lucky that your client base is just always full, or blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, dude, this hasn't been easy. Or like, you're so lucky with your degree. And I'm like, I had to put myself through school. Like, that was not easy. It was a choice. Like,
right.
The people, I still struggle with that concept of luck with that, because I'm like, I have worked so hard to be where I'm at. And like, I do think that life has definitely given back to me. And so maybe that's luck.
Sure.
I view it as a product of doing good in this world, but yeah, maybe we can call that luck. But it's interesting, and I go back to the toxic factor of envy, that if someone says that about me, like, I'm so lucky that I am where I am, the way that it's worded makes it seem like I've put no effort into my life, and that feels like that makes me upset. Like, I feel like I get all charged up about that, being like, oh, okay, you think I just sit around looking pretty? That's cool. Yeah. No, I've put my nose down, and I work hard. At what I do.
Yeah.
So that's, I don't know where I'm going with that, but I think that's
it's something that something else that comes to mind with this is Tony Francis, who is probably listening right now.
Hey, Tony.
He listens to all the episodes, and we had a good conversation. He came in yesterday, but he sent me this awesome article about luck, and it's coming to mind now that we're talking about this. It was it kind of starts with this guy. I think he worked either like down the street or at the World Trade Center. And it revolves around the kind of like the story starts off with September 11th.
Yep.
And all these things, I think his train was late or something.
Yeah.
All these things that he was several blocks away instead of at ground zero on September 11th. And it got him thinking about this whole like luck factor. And the interesting thing that really is like the emphasis of this article. I'll try to link. I think I've got like a scan of it from Tony, so I'll try to link it into this episode and share it. But he kind of just starts exploring this luck idea, and there's actually essentially it's like what we studied in positive psychology. Yeah, it's those things that make you more like. I'm sure this will be another kind of whole episode on its own or several, but things like optimism and gratitude are huge for actually shifting the scales on your personal luck. So it's not, and essentially if you're saying like, oh, that other person's really lucky, what you're doing is going from like a pessimistic slant, right? Yeah. And so shifting the framework of how you look at it and getting towards more of that gratitude or that optimistic outlook is actually going to shift,
work more for
according to research, is going to shift the scales on your luck factor.
So in terms of research, like, is luck quantifiable? Like, is this something that, because I guess I see luck personally, because I haven't studied it scientifically, like, I see luck as more of like a spirituality thing. Yeah. Like a karma. Yeah. And I'm sorry if I don't know if karma's quantifiable either. Like, I definitely believe in it, but I want to know if that's something that you can measure in science, or if it's more a belief. Like, this is where I get kind of shaky on whether or not we can say luck is a hard fact.
I'm blanking on what there's essentially like there's a quiz at the end of this article that can assess
like
your kind of how lucky, but I think luck's kind of like luck's sort of like a catchphrase, or like it's a trendy term, more so for this concept of like positive psychology.
Yeah, I guess that's fair.
I think is if you look at it in that way, it's a little more quantifiable, because then you're looking at things like how optimistic or pessimistic you are, and those are the things that have, whether it's more like a qualitative aspect or if there's something slightly quantifiable about this with how you kind of are inherently more lucky, or you can actually drive yourself towards more luck.
I think that's what I'd prefer. That side of, like, I think that's what I not prefer, but like that's the part of this whole conversation on luck that I bite onto, is like you can actually create it.
Yeah.
You can do this instead of being grumpy and envious and just being like, well, that person's just more lucky than me. Why can't we just take a minute to recognize that person must be more grateful and more positive and more optimistic? Like they must just like live at a higher frequency so that they have all these like wonderful lucky things.
And maybe they don't. Maybe they don't.
This is where I get all tripped up, though. I don't know. I need to read it.
maybe they don't, but that doesn't mean you can't.
There we go.
Yeah.
So do you think that some people are just lucky and other people have to work for their luck?
I don't know. Probably.
I don't know either. This is like...
probably.
I grew up in a really intense Christian home, and we weren't allowed to use the word luck. We used the word blessed. So I never really thought about it till now.
The whole concept of luck is sort of being at the right place at the right time.
Sure.
Which is almost so luck is like it's coincidence pretty much and to some extent, right? We're kind of looking at the two different sides of luck now, being like this coincidence side, something just happened to fall in the right place. Yeah. And then as this article and like this guy that started researching luck outlines, there are things you can do to improve your chances of getting to that better state.
Interesting.
Overall.
It has nothing to do with buying lottery tickets, guys. Just so you know. Unless it does. I don't know. Right place, right time. But
yeah, I don't know. But that's sort of
interesting.
That's sort of aligned with this other part of envy being, it's defined as also like longing for somebody else's possessions. And that's where that's the one that, like, as we like to talk about once again in all these episodes, like the know yourself. It's really I think it trips people up. Like, is that really what you want or whatever when it comes to the possessions? Like, I don't know, because there's a whole lot of marketing and consumerism that drives the appeal of things. Oh, it's all
psychology. We've all been manipulated by marketing. Yeah.
So it's another part of it that you gotta like really, instead of immediately latching onto something when you feel like a pang of envy, right, is taking a step back. Yeah. And looking at the bigger picture and seeing if why? That's actually, the why.
Why do you want that?
Yeah, or like, do you even? Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's like, what's that book? Pardon my French, but the Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, that book. And he tells, I love this story because it really hits home, and I think that it does make a good point towards envy, like at least we can shift it that way. He talks about how he always wanted to be like a famous guitar player, and he wanted to be in a band, and all this stuff, and he's like, I never did it. I never got there. When I was like a teenager, I always wanted this. And so he was chewing on that as an adult, being like, I always wanted that so bad, but I never got there. Why? And then he realized it's because he didn't actually want to put in the grueling hours of learning how to play guitar. He wanted the shininess of being worshipped on stage. Yeah. And that was the why. Like, that's what he wanted, was just that recognition. And he's like, I can get recognition other places. And now he's he's a pretty well-known author. Oh, very well-known. He's one of the most popular bloggers on the internet. So there's that point. And like his desire. Books sell. Yeah. I think Ryan Holiday was talking about Yeah.
how like Mark Manson's books sell like 10x what his do.
Interesting.
And
he was saying that.
Well, he was talking about that, right?
Yeah.
But it's the whole idea was that even Ryan Holiday was making is that what he really wants or whatever.
Exactly.
Too.
So like taking a minute, because I think that as social creatures in some capacity, like we're all drawn, like we all have that one moment where we're just like, how fun would it be to be like famous or recognized or blah blah, like whatever, because it's shiny, it's exciting. But then when you take a step back and it's like, is that what I want to be known for? Yeah. Right? And even just like with this envy, like maybe if you're feeling that grudge, is that what I want to be known for? Being an envious, jealous person? Or like, and it's just a thought.
Yeah, and that ties into another concept with this sort of greed, envy, comparison thing, which is the hedonic treadmill.
Go on.
So it's the concept of essentially like whatever kind of new exciting thing you get eventually becomes your new norm, and then something greater has to fill that void, and there's really no end to it if you're constantly in pursuit of that end point instead of finding like that stillness or enjoying the journey, like enjoying the process. So getting into the flow state is one way to combat like this hedonic treadmill of always seeking greater things. Right. Now, some people may argue like I think there's a difference between like flow in its purest form and being like an adrenaline junkie. Okay. Sometimes that can probably lead more towards a hedonic treadmill of you're always seeking a greater high. Yeah. Instead of more that so.
Sounds like addiction almost.
It's well
in capacities.
You know, because in a lot of ways like this, it's because of the dopamine hits. Totally. Which is what leads to this snowball effect of needing bigger and bigger things, whether it's like, you know, physical possessions or experiences like trying to become a celebrity or whatever, instead of enjoying where you're at. And I think that's even like...
I think that's key right there. Yeah. Enjoying where you're at. Yeah. Because you don't feel envy if you have contentment in your life. Mm-hmm. Like, I really don't think the two can mesh. If you are totally satisfied with your life and your achievements and what you are doing, or that's a very Western view, your community, like your place, right? Sure. I really don't think you can feel envy. You're saturated in this like goodness, and you're content. You're in flow. You're a Buddhist monk, like you're. Yeah. And then.
Well, like, yeah, you don't even have to be. I mean, some people would call it monk-like, right? Because that's what we're.
It's a bit of a detachment thing, right? Where you're trying to live without attachment to things like I want that or I want that or I want that. It's just like, no, I'm good right here.
Yeah, but it's the same whether it's in Buddhism or Stoicism or just plain old mindfulness. It doesn't really matter, or minimalism. Yep. It all comes down to the embracing the present and being content with that. Or not necessarily content, because you can always like I don't think contentment is antithetical to flow in a lot of ways, but and flow is more of it as like finding meaning, right? But
I guess what I mean is not I don't, when I say contentment or even just monk, like I don't mean stagnation. Like I don't mean like sitting still forever, right? Yeah. Like still have your drive, but like be content in your lane. Yes. Do your thing. So don't worry about the other guy.
So that was I've been writing this. I've just like one of my sort of daily contemplation blog posts about this concept, just so that I could kind of ingrain it a little bit, but figure out what my thoughts were on it. Mm-hmm. And the line that came to me is like stagnation breeds complacency, and and how does that relate to envy is essentially like the point that I think I would like to make as far as how to, in a lot of ways, avoid envy or get over it or get past it. Mm-hmm. And it goes back to our last conversation on, on authenticity with the create before consume. Okay. And I think that you'll be much better off avoiding envy or inauthenticity even when you go with this create before consume idea. Because so it kind of ties into a couple things, and that idea comes from Chase Jarvis, but it really resonated with me really well from his new book Creative Calling. If you're consuming before creating, it's really hard to get to an authentic place because it's like everything's been primed immediately from outside influence. So if you flip the script, and that's like it's a time thing, right? So, a lot of creators or a lot of people starting businesses, whatever it's trying to do, side gigs, it's either got to be the first thing in the morning when there's no distractions or last thing at night when there's no distractions. But make sure you create like at least a gap in your schedule where that creating comes before consuming. Right. So it's very easy to do if it's first thing in the morning. Yep. You simply, set a hard line that you're not going to have any, social media. You're not going to read the newspaper, whatever it is. You're not going to do anything other than start your creation. Perhaps even from priming yourself with the concept or idea the night before is also helpful. You write something down before you go to sleep. It lets your subconscious work on it while you're sleeping, and then boom, you're right off to the races. Are good. Yeah. In the morning, or at the end of night, same thing. You could maybe have your social media or whatever batched into the late afternoon or before dinner. After dinner is your work time where you don't check anything else, and you just sort of focus and get down to creating your own stuff. Yeah, and I think that's the key to this envy thing is like I said just before, like don't worry about what the other guy's doing. If you are doing things that are authentically true to you, then you shouldn't feel envy for the other guy. But where it does creep in, and where I've experienced it myself, is when people do things that are like on the same path as you. And I think that's when I've been like, I was going to do that. And then this other person did it first, and then you feel like you're not supposed to. But what I've been told from my wise friends is that it's one, it's just not worth it to feel that. And two, like that person's going to reach a totally different community doing the same thing than you are. And if you have this idea that's authentically yours, and so do they, that's amazing. Because one, you now have like an ally in this. So you've got someone who understands your path, so you can collaborate if you want. Or you've got like twice the amount of people that are reached through this mission, whatever it is, right? Totally. And there was something else I was going to say in terms of advice. I think the biggest thing for me is like asking why you feel envious in the first place, as we said. And then like a lot of the times it's stemmed in just you're envious because that's something you wanted to do, or you wanted, like, at least for me, I should say, like, that's something that I want to do. And I get all stuck up in this like toxic mind frame instead of just doing my own thing. Sure. So I think it's all just I say the same things every podcast, but I think that's where they become super true, is just stay in your lane. Like do your thing. Don't worry about the other guy. Become inspired by the other guy, sure. But, like, don't let them take yourself down, if that makes sense. Yeah. Inspiration is definitely important, but it can quickly lead to sort of... It's a slippery slope if you're not careful, That's why I say this create before consume. Or Chase Jarvis says it's not my thing, but doing that first. I think that's how you kind of avoid it. It's still not going to be, it's not always the perfect solution. Like I even thought, ideas sort of implant themselves in your head, like Inception, right? And you think that it's yours, but it actually came from somebody else. Yeah. But energy is never created or destroyed, only transformed. So it's but if you like obsess over that, then you're kind of like spiraling into more and more envy, where you've got to be able to even recognize that the idea is not wholly yours. But that's where like there's nothing original in the world of creativity.
No.
And you just got to like spin it off on your own
everyone's
way.
Ego.
Yeah. You've got to just spin it off in your own way, and
put your own flavor on it. Be proud of yourself and your style. One thing that just came to mind is like, you ever notice that these kind of envy, jealousy, greed, all these like more, as we say, dirty emotions. My therapist tells me there's no bad emotions, but you feel them more when you're exhausted.
Yeah.
Like, take care of yourself. Yeah. Because I guarantee you, if you take care of yourself, take a nap, have a full night's sleep, nourish your body, like do things that actually build you up, you don't have time to feel envy. But when you're tired and you're grumpy and you don't have the actual energy to put forth into doing the thing that you're jealous of the other person doing, like that's when you get frustrated because your body just can't do it. Your mind can't do it. You're tired. Like, I think that's just check yourself every now. Like, usually it's like you get angry because you're hungry or you're tired or like it. Yeah. It's usually just coming down to, are you taking care of yourself?
That's a great point.
Right.
That's sort of, all these negative emotions are much more salient when we're in a bad state of energy. And that was my big takeaway from Tony Robbins. This where energy goes, focus flows. Or I forget exactly what he said, but I like something like that. Something like that's pretty good. The energy thing, whether it's getting, sleep, making sure that you give yourself that time away from the screen off time, like recharge, like
however that looks for you. Like, exactly. We're introverts, so we're like, go to nature, be alone, have a bath, like be quiet, like come float. If that doesn't work for you, like go charge yourself up, go have fun, go do something that isn't too heady, like go just remind yourself who you are for a second. If that, like, sometimes that's how I charge up, is I need to be around people that know me really well and that I like to just play with and have fun. And then it's like, right, okay, this is my mission in life. Yeah, I think that's my take home right there. That's good. I don't know if you have anything else.
No, I said, create before consume. Like, do that. Yeah. Like, do your creativity or do your business work, do whatever it is before you jump on social media and start to get even distracted by what other people are doing too.
Yeah, I don't think we realize the power of influence. Like when you study psychology, you definitely do when you learn about the subconscious mind. But a lot of people think like, oh, that doesn't affect me. And then later throughout the day, you find yourself thinking these thoughts that you're like, where did that even come from? Yeah. And it's these little things, these little choices, like scrolling through social media first thing in the morning, or checking your email, or checking your bank account first thing in the morning. Like, if money is a struggle of yours, like that can be a huge trigger. It's not starting your day off with anxiety. You're priming yourself for that. Don't do that. No. Obviously don't ignore your problems, but at the same time, like, give yourself a minute. Yeah.
I think there's lots of like morning routines out there. We haven't done like a specific episode on it. Maybe someday, but we've heard, if you go back through the episodes, you'll get some ideas on some of these things that
I think Jess talks about one where she like has an app that blocks her social media. Like, it's a timer and she can't check anything until like, I think she said 7. She's got a baby, so she's probably up by like 4 a.m. Yeah. But whatever time that you are ready to finally play with your phone, like that's what she did. And I think that's cool because she knows that she would definitely click on it otherwise. Yeah. So know your weak spots. Totally. Keep yourself safe. What time are we at?
Yeah, we're probably out of time anyway, so it's 9:15.
Oh, I have a 9:30 client. I'm coming, Melissa. Oh, man.
All right, we're going to wrap up now. Telsey's got to go.
I got to go train someone.